Hi, it's Kate One here from Trade Secrets Business Consultants, and we're in the middle of the 5-day Write Your Story Challenge, and today we have a bonus interview for you. I'm speaking to published author Yolanda Ridge, and she is an author of children's books, and I'm grateful to Yolanda for taking the time to talk to us and share your expertise. So welcome.
Thank you.
So I was asking you, and we talked previously about what tips you could give our audience for writing a great story. So could you, well, actually, I'm going to take a step back from that. Would you be able to tell us, first of all, how you started writing, and then we'll lead into the tips?
Ooh, how I started writing is a good question. I've done a lot of different types of writing, and before I had kids, I did scientific writing. I worked in genetics, and I
Right.
did educational and scientific material. Then when I had children and decided to stay at home with them, I started writing children's books, which is what you referenced before.
Yep.
And since then, I've been doing a bit of journalism. I've gone back a little bit to science writing. I'm doing some grant writing, some publicity stuff for Oceania Canada. So
Wow.
I've always written, and I've written kind of a lot of different things, but my passion is definitely fiction and children's books.
Fantastic. That's incredibly well-rounded, isn't it? You've got the science and the fiction and non-fiction.
Yeah, well, when you asked me about 5 tips for writing a good story, I was like, well, do I come at it from, with which hat on?
Yeah.
And then I sort of came to the conclusion, but that the general rules apply to all types of writing.
Right.
And particularly for your audience, what makes a good story for a children's book is the same as what makes a good story for a consumer. It's really not
Right.
that much different.
Well, I appreciate your knowledge on this topic, and obviously you've been doing this for many years, and I really appreciate you spending the time with us today to go through this.
So now you're just going to have to cut me off because it is a topic I can talk about for a long time.
I look forward to it. So I'm going to hand over to you and hear what are your 5 tips for writing a great story. Thank you.
Hey, well, when I was trying to narrow it down to 5, I was thinking, okay, a good story is short, it's simple, it has a good plot, great characters, and an engaging voice. So I've got sort of a tip for each one of those points, and I'll start with short.
Great.
I think the story is not necessarily short, but it's definitely not any longer than it needs to be. And people are too busy right now to get bogged down with extras. So we really need to be economical with our words. And a simple rule of thumb is never use 2 words when one will suffice.
Right.
And some of these are going to end up being my little pet peeves, but here's an example. He looked up at the sky.
Right.
Well, if he's looking at the sky, we know he's looking up. Just give he looked at the sky, right?
And I definitely fall into this category. When I write a story, it is just way too long, and then I shorten it down, and I actually get somebody else to look over it to see if they can shorten, and then I can find I can shorten it again. It's crazy how many words I use.
Actually, that's a really good point, Kate, because a lot of this, when you're writing, you should just let the words flow, really. And this is actually kind of something you want to go back to at the end and look for examples of this and take them out later. Don't be worried about this actually writing. But when you go back to it, exactly as you just said, look for those things. She took a look at the screen with her tongue. Well, she probably didn't take it with her elbow, so get rid of it with her tongue.
Great.
And this one is another big no-no for writers in general. It's trying not to use too many adverbs. So did he say something loudly or did he yell? And again, you can go back afterwards and you can even, I love find and replace when working on a Word document. You can go back and look for anything that ends in ly. And that's an adverb, and go back and see if you can, instead of using an adverb, use a more active verb.
Wow. Oh, that's really good. So that's something, the find and replace. I've never seen that before.
Find and replace is awesome. It can tell you when you're overusing a word. It can tell you if you've got too many adverbs. I mean, a few adverbs, yes, but you want to kind of search through everyone, and for every ly word, see if you can get rid of it and replace it with something.
What would be an example of the ly words you're thinking of? Like, what's a common thing?
He said loudly. You could
Right.
just replace that word, that verb said, with yelled.
Great.
Or, yeah, I don't know. Other ones like it looked lovely. Well, let's not say it looked lovely. Let's actually describe it.
Great. Yeah, I can see how that takes your writing up to a whole other level and makes it more interesting to read.
Cleaner and shorter, right?
Right.
And also, this goes into my second point, which is simple.
Right.
And simple, again, like with short is not, there's no really definition of short. Simple, it depends on your audience, obviously, how simple it's going to be. But you do want to speak in the simplest way possible. So at the sentence level, if you think about whether each sentence supports your main objective.
Right. Wow, each sentence, that's great. That really is focused.
Yeah, I think, and again, maybe you need to go do this at the end of your writing, but make sure each of the sentences are actually supporting your main objective, which also means you have to know what your main objective is. And exactly what message you're trying to get across. And if you do know exactly what message you're trying to get across, then it will be simple.
And the great thing is that on day one of this 5-day challenge, that's exactly what we do. We work out the purpose and the objective of why you're writing the story. So everyone who's listening hopefully has clarity on that.
Perfect. And then it's easy to go back and look, okay, does this sentence actually support what I'm trying to say? Or is it just kind of sounded good?
I love it. Yeah, I love how focused it is.
And also with words, I think there's a whole kind of movement out there to try to simplify what words we're choosing. So don't pick a complicated word if a simple word will suffice. Don't go crazy with a thesaurus because you don't want people to leave your reading and go look up a word. Or, same as analogies, similes, metaphors, all those figures of speech, they can be great, but you don't want someone to stop thinking, oh, well, where does that metaphor come from? Or, you don't want much that distracts them from your main point.
Fantastic. I'm just scribbling down notes here. Thank you.
The third one I had was obviously about plot. Every good story has a plot, and it's an active plot. So, something kind of has to happen.
Right.
And when you think about if you're trying to tell a story of a product or a service you have, you have to start by taking your reader's hand and kind of bringing them into the story. So you got to start kind of low, and you're imagining this arc, but you can't stay too long on the come on and let me tell you about my story. You have to kind of get into the action and always be heading towards some kind of climax, or a call to action or something. And how quickly you do that sort of depends on how short it is. But you can't take too long. But you also don't want to start right in the middle of the call to action, right? You don't want to just hit someone over the head with it right away. You got to gently take them back and go up that hill, and then don't leave them up there. Kind of take them back down. Here's your call to action. Here's the main point, and here's how we're going to get to the other side of this.
It's a journey.
It is. Yeah, that's a good way to look. The plot arc is a journey, and you want to take your readers through a journey. You don't just want to tell them something.
Great. Good. I'm loving it. Thank you.
The fourth point I had, or tip I had a little bit more trouble with, because I was thinking, okay, great character. And will all stories have an easily defined character? But I think it does. I think whether your character is the product, or a person using the product, or yourself as a business owner, I think there is going to be a character.
Right. Yeah.
And if you can hook your reader with some unexpected or personal tidbit that makes them engaged with the character, that's going to it's just going to be that much more satisfying or interesting of a read. I had some examples. I read this book. I'm not a screenwriter at all, but I read a book on screenwriting called Save the Cat.
Right.
And it was talking about how formulated the movies that we watch are, and how it takes us through this plot arc, et cetera, et cetera. But it's called Save the Cat because it said even if it's the most bland character, or even the most disagreeable character, if that character saves the cat, or something heroic, or gives some personal tidbit, then the reader's going to be that much more hooked and engaged.
Fantastic. Okay. Okay, that's good. So I guess, is it making the person more relatable?
Yeah, I think so. I had another example of actually the article you wrote for Huffington Post, where you started with yourself skiing.
Right.
We're talking about taking a leap off into business. You weren't talking about skiing. You weren't even really talking about yourself, but you didn't have a clearly defined character because the character were the people reading it. So you brought yourself into it and you gave them a little personal tidbit. It didn't take long, but I think it really helps to engage
Oh, good.
the reader. Another example, I wrote a Rosalind News article one time, and it was about artisan fair. It's kind of like, well, I could list all the artists and all the different things that they're selling, but the organizer of the conference happened to have 2 young kids, and they lived in a motorhome, and it was just kind of interesting. So I just added a sentence about her personally, which just, made people want to read more.
Yeah, great. I love it. It makes I think it makes it more memorable as well when you can relate to the person, or you can, I don't know, get a bit of their personal or their personality.
Absolutely. I think so. We're always more, I think that is actually the number one thing about a story is you read stories to learn about other people, really.
Yeah. Yeah. We all love knowing about other people, don't we?
Give them a little peek. They love it.
That's right. A little peek. That's good. Excellent. And so then moving on to, is it engaging voice?
Yeah, so my last one was about using an engaging voice. And so we've all read kind of very bland, formulated writing. You want to try to do it a little bit more engaging than that. You can think about things like point of view and tense. And we don't tend to think of those things for like technical writing. But I think it's still important, even with the grant writing I was doing recently. I was like, wow, should I do this in third person or first person? And we tend to do it in third person where we're not using I.
Right.
And we tend to do it in this kind of omniscient, like oversight thing. But using first person and using present tense can be actually a lot more personal.
Right.
Doesn't necessarily fit with everybody.
Yeah.
But just to think about it. So it doesn't necessarily have to be third person, someone on high looking down on the situation. It could be someone who's actually in the situation talking about the story or telling the story.
Okay. And I'm thinking for a lot of people who are writing their own business stories, to engage their audience and clients, that using the first person is probably going to be the way that I would think most people are going to go.
Yeah, and I think that's a great idea. I think that what you are doing and what your audience is doing is to try to write it more engagingly. So you're trying to get away from that, impersonal third person story, first person storytelling.
Right. Yeah.
And the other little tip I had was to try to make it an active voice rather than a passive voice. So
tell us more about that.
This will also help to bring your reader right into the action with you, in addition to first person precedence. So an active voice is where the subject of the sentence performs the action rather than the subject receiving the action. So the man was bitten by the dog as opposed to the dog bit the man.
The man was bitten by the dog bit the man. Right. Okay.
And you can go back to our beginning of our discussion about that little find and replace. Look for words that are to be, like was or is, and also look for words like by. So the man was bitten by the dog.
Right.
It's not as active as the dog bit the man.
Yeah.
And so you can find those kinds of sentences, you can shorten them, and you can make them more active.
It sounds like it feels like it's more action oriented, which is more interesting and intriguing, or
Yeah, it goes back to short, it's more simple, it's more personal, and it's more engaging to kind of use that type of voice.
Fantastic. Wow. I am not kidding. I've got stuff written everywhere. I've just like I've got a feeling that 5 tips you could have kept going with like probably 25 tips or more.
Well, there's lots, but the thing is to not get bogged down about them when you're actually writing. Some of the stuff is to go back and think about it after.
Mm-hmm. So that sort of leads back to something you were saying before about write it down and just was it just write everything down and then come back and shorten it and look at the ways of making it, I guess, more sharp and interesting?
It's way more easier to cut words out than to add them later.
Yeah.
So, all my books, all my articles, everything, they always, some of them, they get cut down to about 75%, pretty typically.
Right. Wow. So your latest books, Trouble in the Trees and Roadblock, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. And do you have any more coming up?
Yes, I do. My agent is just negotiating a deal for one right now called Inside Hudson Pickle.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, but I just found out the publishing world moves very slow, so it probably won't be out till 2017.
Wow. That's incredible. Wow. But yeah, I think it's amazing though to be a part of that and to being, published is incredible. It's a whole different world, isn't it?
It really is.
And particularly in this day and age where everything happens so quickly.
Yeah, publishing is definitely not kept up to that. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, maybe that'll change over the years to come. We'll see, hey? Well, thank you so much. Is there anything else that you wanted to add or?
No, I think that's it. I think have fun.
You've given us loads.
Because your voice comes through and the reader can tell whether you're having fun or whether you're kind of being stiff and forcing it. So
have fun. That's a good motto for life. Yeah, well, thank you so much. I'm absolutely thrilled with how much information you've given us there, and I've come up with some great ideas making my writing better as well. So I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Kate. Good luck with the course.
Thank you. And for anybody who's listening, if you'd like to pop over to the private Facebook group and you've got any questions or comments, we'd love to hear them there. And I'll see you there. Thanks, Yolanda. We're very grateful. Bye.
Bye.
End interview. Thank you. I appreciate that, Yolanda.
Oh, I hope it. I had no idea how long you wanted it to take or anything either. So hopefully that's kind of.
Well, you know what? I don't even know how long we did take. What was it? I don't know. We've been on the line. Oh no, I've been on the line 35 minutes, but that was with Nicole before. So probably about 15, something like that. Do you think?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, but you had really good, relevant, amazing information. So thank you.
Oh, good. I really hope it is actually what you. I don't think you tell me if it was terrible. So I hope it's what you.
No, it was really, really, really good. And that's it. I know we could cut some words out there and probably replace them.
Yeah, we could. I'll find and replace. Yeah.
No, it's absolutely perfect. It's great, and we'll put that together as like a recorded interview, and it will go out on Wednesday. It goes out. So, would you like a copy of it?
Sure.
Yeah. Fun.
I don't know if I'd ever actually listen to it because then I will want to go and find and replace. What? See, when you're a writer, don't you find you get like, I'm used to being able to control every word that comes out.
Actually, I can't stand re-listening to mine, and I'm like, just put it out there. I don't care, because otherwise I won't do it. If I record it and then I listen to it, I don't think I would put it out.
Yeah, you always think you could have said something better, or
yeah. Totally. I had to re-listen to one the other day. I'm like, oh my God, that was a stupid question. Like the poor guy having that. And that's like at the beginning of this, I forgot to tell you that I was going to ask you about how you got into writing and went back to it. So sorry about that.
No, that's okay. That's okay. Random. Great job. You're very welcoming. So.
Well, thank you very much. I'll leave you to it for the day. And when we've got this put together, I'll send you a copy of the link and you can, whether you use it or not, or Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks so much. It was absolutely awesome. The content was great and really on point. It was perfect.
Thanks, Kate.
Okay. Talk to you later.
See you somewhere soon.
See you at soccer. Bye.